Everybody, Martha Creek here. I'm reading from a book called Martha's Pearls, A Spiritual Approach of Life. It can be found on Amazon. And this is a compilation of lessons that I've learned, and I want to speak to them and put it on recording here for those that are not readers to be able to access this too, as one of my missions is to get empowered teachings to the whole of the world. So here's another way that I'm able to do this. Chapter 1. In his book, Facing Your Giants, Max Lucado tells a story about a Moravian missionary struggling to find words in the Inuit native language for the word forgiveness. They finally settled on a very long word that's spelled ISUMAGIOUJUNGNAINEMIK. So that's why I will not attempt to pronounce that. That's the title of chapter 1. This assembly of letters is literally translated as, quote, not able to think about it anymore. Wouldn't it be wonderful to literally be not able to think about it anymore? That which hurt us. What is it in your life, or who is it in your life that you have not forgiven? Who is it? What is it in your life that you have not forgiven? What is the giant in your life? What would facing that giant look like? What aspect of ego keeps you stuck in it? One day, my mama was talking about not liking a certain woman, and I asked her what was the basis of her dislike. She said, because that woman lied about me one time. That could seem like grounds for unforgiveness, right? Trusting that people are going to do what people do seems more forgiving to me. It's a saner alternative than believing that they're going to do what they aren't doing. Now, this is from insights I gained after a lot of forgiveness and forgiveness as a practice. Trusting people that they're going to do what they do instead of what I want them to do takes care of any forgiveness business. What if you knew that what happened to Mama actually happened to her when she was 5 years old, and that what happened was about a coloring book? Two 5-year-olds playing together. One colored in the coloring book that wasn't hers, and the other one was hurt by it, and that she lied about it. So Mama was 75, and this giant was still living inside of her. A lifetime of not liking someone because of what happened at age 5. In the spirit of being honest, I admit that in the past I have often denied when I was holding something against somebody too. I confess that I was bound by petty things from my past also, like getting a B, one B, the only B I ever had in high school. One B, and I blamed the teacher for this B. That's another story. Then there was a random man on a beach one time 30 years ago, 30 plus years ago, that made some crack about my weight. Never mind, I thought the same thing he thought. So he thought I should lose weight. I thought I should lose weight. And I was offended by his thinking it. One time, my brother threw a deck of cards at me, hit me in the eye right about here, and caused me to have a black eye. The week of my 8th grade graduation, I was valedictorian and giving a speech to the whole assembly with a black eye. I could go on for 100 years about all the small unforgivenesses I carried in an attempt to elevate myself above the big ones. With all the many books, workshops, theories, lectures, processes, and practices on forgiveness, it still doesn't necessarily make the task of carrying out forgiveness any easier, or though it may seem. And it may not even bring the forgiveness we prefer. Is it actually even possible to forgive? God knows we can hold the intentions of forgiving someone for whatever it is that we think they did to us. Sometimes we believe we have worked through a relationship or a situation and can now check it off of the box until something brings it back to us with a little and sometimes not so little thread hanging on tight for us to grab hold of and pull yet again. When that button is pushed or the memory or familiar feeling is evoked, we are again hostage to the hurt. Author and friend, the late Colin Tipping, colintipping.com for his work, notes in his book, Radical Forgiveness, that being able to forgive others is one thing, and forgiving ourselves is even harder. He also talks about the difference between making a decision to give up resentment and actually giving up resentment. Big difference. The radical forgiveness techniques and practices include worksheets, letter writings, reframing situations, and guidance for our willingness to entertain the possibility of spiritual perfection in every situation, whether I can see it or not. I am willing. I am willing. Look at the word itself, forgive. For-give. As in, we are giving ourselves freedom, letting ourselves off the hook as we offer forgiveness to others. It is in forgiving, it is in giving that we receive. Sound familiar? I'm grateful for my father, Joe, who truly lived out forgiveness. He modeled it for me. He seemed more immune to the chronic nature of ill will, harboring, regretting, blaming. I asked him many questions during our final years together. He died in 2007. And his replies to my questions were typically short and clear. Quote, he says, "It doesn't do any good to hold things against people. I've learned about people by what they do. This at the time didn't seem like forgiveness to me. Simply wisdom to trust people to do what they do, not what I want them to do. Maybe it was forgiveness. He also said, I don't regret the past. I can't change the past. And I'm not going to live the rest of what life I have imprisoned by the past. Yes, I would do parts of it differently if I could. And I can't. I believe that to truly know God, we must learn to understand the weaknesses and imperfections of others. I can add now, years after writing this, acceptance of others. Understanding and acceptance. How can we do that unless we understand our own perceived imperfections? How can we see our own limitations until we become aware of God's presence in it all? Mercy, grace. Forgiveness and compassion begin with forgiving ourselves and with not able to think about it anymore. I'm just not able to think about it anymore. Blessings, friends. Martha's Pearls, Chapter 1, marthacreek.com to contact me.